6 months ago, I made a video showing you 3 classic British sandwiches. The comment section made for very entertaining reading, so I thought I would revisit the topic and show you the worst British sandwiches. So, sit back and relax, and I will make the first sandwich. So, the first sandwich requires a bread roll. Now, the traditional sandwich requires what's known as a Barm cake, but I could not find a Barm cake style bread roll, so I've just gone for the closest comparison that I could find, which is a standard bread roll from the supermarket. So I just need to cut this open first. There we have our open roll, and the next thing I need is butter. So I'm just going to spread a good amount of butter on this roll, and it's important you use a lot of butter for this sandwich. Now, all 3 of these sandwiches will be using cheap butter. It's important when making the worst sandwiches to also use the worst ingredients. There we go, a healthy amount of butter there. And then another good layer of butter on the top of the bread roll. Now, this sandwich is what's known as a pie barm. It's popular, well, I say popular, it's most commonly eaten in the north of England, and it has another name. It's known as a Wigan kebab, and as the name might suggest, this is a pie sandwich. The most traditional pie to be used is a meat and potato pie, but I couldn't find that specific type of pie, so I have opted for just a normal steak pie. That looks quite impressive. Now, the idea of the pie barm, or what it's meant to be, is a convenient and delicious way to eat a pie, where you don't need any kind of container or a plate, because the bread soaks up all of the gravy that comes out. We will test how true that is. Let's place that sandwich to one side. Now, the second sandwich is equally shocking and probably has a similar amount of carbohydrates to that sandwich, and that is the is not one that I believe to be consumed in the UK very often anymore. It, according to the internet, originated in 1861 in Mrs. Beeton's cookbook, and it was supposed to be a very cheap way to feed the family. Now, a toast sandwich may sound very bland, but don't fear. You can add some seasoning to the toast sandwich. The recipe does suggest adding some salt and pepper. So that is what I will do. Again, with the pie balm, I used a decent amount of cheap butter, and I will do the same now, because the recipe suggests that you don't butter the toast. The toast goes in dry, so we need to make sure there is enough moisture on the other two pieces of bread. Now, that looks sufficiently buttered. I will go and retrieve the toast. And here I have a piece of toast. So I will simply place the toast onto the bread. This feels quite wrong. And then I will season the toast. The chef in me hates myself right now. You may have just heard my refrigerator compressor kick in. It's a nice little hum in the background. And there we have our toast sandwich. If you've ever had a toast sandwich, then please let me know in the comments below. Now, I will cut this now, just so we can get that cross section. I feel as though this sandwich should be one that is cut diagonally. And here we have our toast sandwich. Okay. I will set the toast sandwich to one side, and we will continue on our journey to a carb coma. The final sandwich requires one of these. That is a pot noodle, very common in the UK. This is the best flavour. Pot noodle, the chicken and mushroom flavour. And of course, before this is ready to go in our sandwich, we need to prepare the pot noodle, which means we need to add some boiling water. This comes with a small sachet of soy sauce, which we will add slightly later in the process. I will just go and grab some boiling water. now time to open this up, and I need to just put the fork down and add the soy sauce. For some reason my fridge is making a funny noise. So just add the soy sauce in there, and then I need to stir that in. So that has been stirred in, and now I will leave that for another 2 minutes before we add that to our bread. So if I set that to one side, I will just spend a moment buttering the bread while that just finishes cooking. So again, more cheap butter needed. I'm just going to spread that over the bread again, and just again a good layer of butter. Now, of course, none of these are healthy sandwiches. I don't think there is any real nutritional value in any of them. Although saying that, there is some sweet corn in the pot noodle sandwich, or in the pot noodle itself, and there is some steak in the pie, so some protein in there as well. But this is mainly a carb-loaded meal. So we'll just give that 30 more seconds before we add our pot noodle. So that has had another 30 seconds or so. Now, the correct way to make a pot noodle sandwich is to use only one slice of bread, or 2 slices, but you don't sandwich it together like a traditional sandwich and then cut it. It is folded. Now I am just going to shake some of the excess moisture off of the noodles, because as you can see, a pot noodle is quite a brothy instant noodle. So I'm just going to try and shake some of the moisture off, although I think this is supposed to be a somewhat messy sandwich anyway, where the butter melts and the bread goes slightly soggy. So that is also why I have prepared this sandwich last, so as to maintain the best standards possible for the taste test. And we'll just add a few more. It is quite a deep fill sandwich as it is, but I want to make sure to get plenty of noodles in there, so just try not to lose too many of those, but they seem to be jumping out of the sandwich. And then I will simply fold. I may have to use the fork to keep the noodles in place, and then simply fold like so and squish that together. Now, I did just say that this is not a sandwich that is to be cut, but I do want to give you some cross-section. So let's just get that back in there. This is a very disobedient sandwich. Got some extra broth there, but let's cut that. as you can see, very, very appetizing. So, I will go ahead and try these sandwiches and just move some of those out of the way. Let's try and cover those up. So I will try the pot noodle sandwich first, followed by the toast sandwich, followed by the pie barm. Now, although these are British sandwiches, I've never had any of them. This is a kind of a guilty pleasure for some people. This is poor people food from the 1860s, and this is northern food, of which I am not very accustomed. But I will endeavour to be fair in my review. It's not quite what I expected. It's very salty, but most of the salt comes from the butter, surprisingly. I was expecting the noodles to be more salty because a pot noodle, as you can see from this little nutrition chart, is very, very salty, but most of the salt flavour seems to come from the butter. It actually works quite well. Now, although I've never had a pot noodle sandwich, I have, dunked bread into a pot noodle before, so it is familiar, but I wouldn't make it like that if it was my choice. So, I probably won't finish the pot noodle sandwich as it is, but I will finish the pot noodles separately. My dogs will probably enjoy these after the video. They will not go to waste. Next up, the toast sandwich. Okay, so the toast sandwich, believe it or not, tastes like a toast sandwich. Like toast with more bread flavour and a little bit more salt because of the seasoning. It's probably one of the blandest things I've ever eaten, and if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know I also eat MREs regularly. I would give that a 2 or 3 out of 10, and I would not make it again, although my dogs will be happy. The final sandwich. I think this, in my opinion, holds the highest prospect of success, or at least finishing the sandwich. Now, I will. This is not the